just gonna let last couple of people in. Okay, so okay, let's do our usual. So we're still just finding a comfortable position to sit on. So kind of ideally knees roughly the same height as the hips. Okay, and we are at any point during this kind of program, if you feel out of breath or you feel dizzy, if you feel to stop, always just go back to your regular breathing or however you like to breathe to make yourself more comfortable again. Okay, so as usual, let's check our posture first. Okay, so remember that our diaphragm does go down when we breathe in. So when you're a little bit rounded, you have much less room for your lungs, for your diaphragm to expand. Okay, so you want to check your posture first. Okay, so posture pretty easy to remember. Just think of getting yourself taller. Okay, just think, imagine someone pulling your head, making your body trunk longer. Okay, so remember longer doesn't mean arching back. Okay, it just means taller through the spine. Okay, so you might feel a little bit of tension in your back muscles. Okay, same with the chest. Okay, so if you're a little bit kind of this way, it makes it harder to take a full breath in. Okay, so just make yourself wider again. Okay, same as being taller. Wider does it mean kind of arch back? So it's actually more narrow this way compared to this. Okay, so just think of taller, okay, and wider. Okay, so it's kind of a combination of kind of a little bit of tension, but it's not fully tensed up. It's a little bit of tension, but also kind of relaxed at the same time. Okay, so let's just take a couple of breaths in first. Okay, just how you know to breathe. Okay, and we're just going to put one hand maybe on top of our chest, one hand on maybe a little bit harder than the belly button. Okay, and just how notice. Okay, which hand is moving? Okay, maybe both of them are moving. Maybe the bottom or the top. Okay, and generally speaking, we want to be breathing in through the nose and also out through the nose when we can. Okay, so why is that? So we do have a lot of blood vessels inside the nose, so that heats up the air that gets into our lungs. We're here in the nose that kind of filters out some debris in the air as well. Okay, and also it's more connected to our diaphragm. Okay, so kind of breathe in through the nose a couple more times. So, okay, and once again, notice which hand moves a little bit more. Okay, now we're just trying to take a breath through our mouth this time. So, okay, so you might notice, or for some of you at least, you might probably suddenly feel like your top hand moves a little bit more. So mouth breathing is kind of linked to chest breathing as well. Okay, so when we can, we want to breathe through the nose so that we are breathing in more through the diaphragm. Okay, or just think of deeper into the lungs. Okay, and one reason why we want to do that is that blood does get into our lungs in order to collect oxygen. Okay, but because of gravity, a lot of the blood, more of the blood at least, goes to the bottom half of our lungs. Okay, whereas when we breathe in, it's top to bottom. Okay, so more air is here, more blood is here. Okay, and we want to, so it's not as efficient. Okay, so we want more air to go down. Okay, so that where more of the blood is here, so it's easier for the oxygen to get into our bloodstream. Okay, so let's also bring a little bit of awareness into our breathing. Okay, just think of that as not necessarily meditation, but it's just more of a concentration drill or awareness drill. Okay, so just kind of, once again, breathing in. Okay, kind of just notice maybe the quality or the temperature of the air that you're breathing in. Okay, is the air cooler when you breathe in? Okay, maybe it's slightly warmer when you breathe back out. You notice a little bit of a turbulence in your nose as you breathe the air in. Okay, so we're just learning to direct our attention from what is going on inside our mind, maybe our worries, and more towards just that breath. Okay, and now we're just going to go into kind of the 3 steps for maybe better breathing. Okay, so we want our breathing to be light, we want our breathing to be deeper, and we want our breathing to be a little bit slower. Okay, so let's look at the first step first. Okay, we're looking at lighter. Okay, so it just means more of a gentle breath in and a gentle breath out. Okay, so you can imagine as you breathe in, you want your breath to be so gentle that the kind of hair in your nose doesn't even sway too much. Okay, so if I take a really big breath in, that's, you can think of as a heavy breath. Okay, all my nose hairs kind of flying backwards as I breathe in, or flying back out as I breathe out. Okay, so we want to do the opposite. Okay, so try, you can relax your arms and hands if you want to. Okay, and okay, just a more gentle breath in. Okay, and at the top of the breath, just let your body relax. And your breath should just naturally kind of come back out. Okay, total relaxation as you breathe out. As your diaphragm recoils upwards, your ribs kind of sinks back down as you breathe to push the air back out. So we don't need to push the air out. Okay, so once again, breath in. Okay, just at your own pace actually. Okay, so naturally you are taking in less air. Okay, so you might feel a little bit of what we call air hunger, or that urge to breathe. So for most people, the oxygen in the blood is totally fine. Okay, we only use about maybe 25% of the oxygen we breathe in every breath. Okay, so even if we breathe a little slow, we are fine. Okay, but if you do have COPD or some sort of lung condition, maybe check your oxygen if you're suddenly feel well. Okay, or just have it on, even just to take notice. Oh, okay. Okay, so just kind of, if you don't feel well, just go back to your normal breathing then. Okay, so let me just try a couple more breaths. So we're going to take a breath in again. Okay, and just don't push the air out, just let it naturally come out. Now, we're going to do almost a little bit of warm-up drill. We call this mini breath holds. Okay, so you still continue this type of breathing. Okay, you're taking a full breath in, and let the air kind of naturally get pushed out to your body. Okay, and at the end of the exhale, you are going to add just a little bit of a pause. Okay, so just kind of let it natural pause, and you're going to hold it for kind of 5 seconds. Okay, and afterwards, just take a couple of breaths until you feel you're back to normal again. Okay, and once again, breathe in, normal breath in, breath out. And then at the end of the exhale, you're going to hold that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's try this for a couple of breaths. Okay, so once again, you can sometimes maybe you need to reset your posture a little bit. If you've been sitting tall for a while, you get a little tense. So feel free to reset at any time. Okay, and just once again, see if you can breathe in through your nose very lightly. Okay, let the air naturally just come back out. Okay, at the end of the exhale, you can hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, couple of normal breaths in and out. Okay, until you feel fine again. Once again, at the end of your exhale, you can hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and breathe in through the nose afterwards. Okay, so you might notice the first breath, you start to go back to a little more chest breathing. At least I kind of saw it myself. So that, let's do it one more time first. Okay, so at the end of the exhale again, holding for at your own count 5 seconds. And breathe in through your nose afterwards. Okay, so maybe just a little bit urge of breathe, probably fine for most people. Okay, so that urge of breath is not because we don't have enough oxygen in your body. I wish I had my oxygen with me so I can show that my oxygen level doesn't drop even as I hold my breath, okay, because we have enough oxygen inside our bloodstream, which is why we can do CPR on someone. We can give like breath mouth to mouth to get like the breath that we breathe into someone else that's unconscious, okay, because there's still a lot of oxygen inside as well. Okay, so the urge to breathe is actually carbon dioxide kind of building up in the body. Okay, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, our body does require a certain balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Usually, most people now tend to over breathe. Okay, so we don't tolerate as high of oxygen, the carbon dioxide level in our body as much. Okay, so that leads to maybe more breathlessness, especially nowadays when people wear masks and they get that feeling. Sometimes it's just we're not used to maybe a higher concentration of carbon dioxide in their body. Okay, so that's the first step, lighter breathing. Okay, so just a very gentle breath in so that our nose hair doesn't even move. Okay, you can hear your own breathing. And then afterwards, just let your body breathe back out. Okay, second one, so that's the biochemistry. We're trying to slow down our breath, change the concentration of carbon dioxide and oxygen in our body. Okay, so second part is the biomechanical, or what muscle we're using in our body to breathe. Okay, so that's the ones we have been working on the past couple of weeks. Okay, so that's using diaphragm, using kind of our ribs. Okay, so for this one, you can either use your hands, okay, or you can also use, if you prefer, also use the band to help you just notice which part you're using. Okay, so once again, we can use in different levels. Okay, so the first one is just a little bit lower. Okay, you can even find be a little bit higher than your belly button. So that's kind of your bottom, the level of your bottom, bottom ribs. Okay, so if you go to the side, you're going to find kind of your bottom ribs somewhere around the level of your belly button. Okay, so you can lightly kind of push your fingers in a little bit. Okay, it should be soft at the beginning. Okay, and once again, posture first. Okay, and so take a breath in, see if you can lightly press your thumbs out. Okay, once again, naturally, you can still continue the light breathing part if you can manage both of things at the same time. Okay, sometimes it can be a little bit much to do both. Okay, and it's also kind of go out a little bit to the side as well. Okay, so you can find your bottom ribs again. So it should be, I've got your ribs, your bottom bone, a little bit of bones here. Okay, so that's the, and even your back kind of expands a little bit as well. Okay, so let's do that, lean for a little bit. So we're creating less space for the diaphragm to, so move down, so less space in front. So it expands a little bit more on the back. Okay, so you can either lean forward if you feel comfortable. You can have something to get your knees a little higher than your hips. Okay, so just something to create a little bit less space in front. Okay, and once again, we'll try and breathe in, and this time, see if you can imagine expanding from the back a little bit. Okay, so still kind of think of the light breathing part. So still breathing in through your nose. Okay, let it naturally come back out. Okay, and just bring that awareness to your breathing. Okay, so kind of notice what part of my body is moving. As I take a breath in. Okay, am I holding tension in some areas? Okay, and that's slowly coming back out. Okay, so once again, any points if you feel really lightheaded, if you're short of breath, and if you're uncomfortable, just go back to your regular breathing pattern until you feel okay. Okay, and feel free to reset anytime. Yep. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually, yeah. Yeah, it's actually for people that's sort of breath like asthma, it's a natural resting position because it supports your arms are kind of supporting your trunk, so that it does make your breathing muscles work more easily. So remember in the class before we like way back then we talked about a tripod position where if someone's naturally out of breath, they naturally adopt this position, okay, because your arms are kind of supporting your trunk, which makes it easier for your muscles to work, okay, because these muscles also helps to support our trunk as well. And yeah, and also a more leaning forward position, it kind of just gets things, I think, from my understanding, more things out of the way of a diaphragm, especially if you have a kind of a belly or it tends to compress, squeeze in the diaphragm, which makes it harder to breathe. Okay, so if you're out of breath, sometimes that's why people do the tripod position or kind of on a desk kind of position. So it does help with breathing when we are short of breath. No problem. Okay, so second level would be using a little bit of ribs. Okay, so we need to use that more, especially when we are lifting something heavy, when we need to engage our trunk muscles a little bit more so that you can't really expand the diaphragm too much. And we don't want to direct all the pressure into the up front either. Okay, so that can be not good for people with hernia. You don't want it to direct all the pressure down towards the pelvis either. So you want it out a little bit to the side with the ribs. Okay, so once again, let's go back, reset, go back to a kind of tall posture, wider posture. Okay, so this time we're going to put, you can kind of put your thumbs a little high up, maybe just below your chest bone. Just whatever is comfortable for you. Some people will feel it's fine if they hook their thumbs in the back. I think it's more comfortable just to have your thumb on your side of the ribs. Okay, and the other fingers can be on the front if you want. Okay, and once again, just do a couple of breath first and notice what's going on. Once again, keep the light breathing in mind. Okay, and let the air naturally just flows out of you. You can have that little bit of a pause at the end of the exhale as well. And now let's try to see if you can direct more of the pressure or the air into the side of your ribs, okay, or your thumb area. Okay, but we don't want to go into what we call paradoxical breathing, where you are sucking your stomach As you breathe in, we still want our diaphragm to go down. We want our belly to expand. Okay, it's just that our ribs move a little bit more this time. Okay, so this one might be more obvious. If we have maybe a band. It's also a little bit of a cue to for us to breathe into that area. So the band should get a little tighter as we take a breath in. Okay, almost try to relax, let the band almost squeeze the air out for you. Be a little bit of a pause at the end exhale until you feel light, the kind of urge to breathe in. Okay, so you kind of with awareness again, so if you the breath, the band in, you might notice the exhale is a lot faster than compared to if we don't have the band on. So a lot of kind of meditation practice or mindfulness practice, the basics of it is just, can we direct our attention to something that's maybe more positive, or just something, so direct our attention away from the kind of everyday thoughts of our mind, maybe negative thoughts especially. Okay, and just direct it to something maybe external, like a sound, or something internal, like our own breathing. Okay, and just a pocket at any point. Okay, and we can get reset if you want. Okay, or you can keep it on if you want as well. Okay, so that's the first two parts. Okay, so the first one is the light breathing. Okay, second part is the deeper breathing. Okay, so light, just think of the nose hand, it doesn't even move much as you take a breath in. Okay, let your body naturally push the air out. Okay, so it's a relaxation instead of pushing the air out. Okay, have a little bit of a pause at the end until you feel a light urge to breathe in. Okay, second component to a better breathing technique will be the deeper part. Okay, so deeper meaning deeper into the lungs. Okay, so you want your diaphragm to go down further. Okay, so your belly area expands. The diaphragm is almost all the way around. Okay, so your ribs should also move out a little bit as well. And as you breathe out, once again, we're just letting it naturally squeeze the air back out. Okay, and the last part, so it'll be light, deep, and the last part is a little bit slow or a little bit slower. Okay, so the goal is to get to somewhere around 6 to 10 breaths per minute. Okay, so we're gonna add a little bit of tempo to our breathing now. Okay, so what we're gonna do is gonna breathe in for 4, okay, and breathe out for 6. Okay, so if you just let the air naturally kind of come back out, if I'm trying to force it out, you probably notice that it takes a little longer, your exhales a little bit longer already. Okay, but we're just gonna add a little bit of timer to it as well. Okay, so I'm gonna just show maybe a clock. You can just look at your own clock. You can also just hear my count as well. Okay, but you can just kind of use that as a kind of a guide. Okay, so once again, let's just reset first. Okay, move a little bit if you need to. Okay, and once again, posture first. Okay, so taller, a little bit wider. Okay, and once again, lighter breath in and out first. A little bit of a natural pause at the end of our exhale. And once again, bring the awareness to our breathing. Again, maybe notice the cooler air as it comes in. A little bit warmer breath as we go out. You see if you can direct the breath closer to your belly. A little bit of expansion to the side. Okay, so now we're going to add the kind of a cadence, right timing to the breath. Okay, so we're going to breathe in for in, 2, 3, 4, out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll give you 1 or 2 more breaths. 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and we'll just relax. Okay, so that was about a minute. Okay, where you do about 6. That was about 6 breaths because every cycle is about 10 seconds. So 4 and 6 is 10 seconds. Okay, so that's about 6 breaths kind of per minute. Okay, so something you can kind of, that's for the basics, kind of practicing kind of drill you can do if you want to practice at home. So just remember the 3 steps would be the lighter breathing first. Okay, and then the deeper breathing. Okay, and if you feel comfortable, the slower breathing. Okay, so for slower, just focus on maybe just elongating the exhale. So just let the air go out a little bit longer. Okay, so a lot of times people, when they go slower, they also try to just take a really big breath in. Maybe they try to hold that breath in the middle and then they, okay, so the idea is that we can decrease over breathing that we're doing most of the time. Okay, so that's just a slower. If you breathe more lighter, you automatically breathe a little bit slower as well. Okay, but you can add a timing to it as well. Okay, so for today, let's just let me just get that out of the way. Okay, so we're gonna add a little bit of movement to it as well. Okay, so something simpler today. Okay, less so we don't have to worry so much about the movement. We're just going to go into a basic kind of marching. Okay, marching could mean standing. Okay, so If you get out of breath easily, I would prefer that you maybe even just do like almost like a marching on a spot, on a chair, I mean. So you can either do this, or you can just kind of tap the heel in front, so you can use arms a little bit as well. If you want to, you can also do this standing up as well. Okay, so we're just going to do the same what we just did. Okay, so a little bit simpler class today. Okay, but we are just going to do it in a standing position as well. Okay, so just give yourself a little bit of time for your blood pressure, maybe adjust. Okay, maybe just move your legs a little bit. If you tend to get lightheaded from sitting to standing, okay, make sure you are safe as well. Okay, so we are just going into almost a very light marching, or just like you can, if you want to, even just literally walk around. Okay, but I just don't want to be kind of going back and forth in your video, so I'm just going to be marching on the spot. Feel free to actually move around. Okay, once again, want to see what your posture is doing first. Okay, so once again, can we make ourselves a little bit taller? Okay, maybe shoulders a little bit wider. Maybe only if it is safe for you to do so. Okay, if you feel comfortable, maybe add just a little bit of a swing from the shoulders. Okay, once again, if you need to hold on to something, make sure you are steady, that you're not going to fall. Okay, and we once again bring our attention back to our breath. You might notice that your breath is a little bit faster than when we're sitting down. Okay, because we are moving a little bit now. Okay, and now we're going to do the same type of practice. Okay, we're trying to make our breath a little bit lighter again. Okay, allow your body to almost relax. Let the air naturally come back out. Okay, have that natural pause at the end of the exhale until you feel that maybe a light urge to breathe in again. Okay, you might feel a little bit of an air hunger going on. Okay, so that's still, for most people, we're still okay. Okay, so generally speaking, we use only about 25% of oxygen in our breath, in each breath. Okay, we're also trying to training our body to tolerate that little bit of air hunger, which means just a little bit higher concentration of carbon dioxide in our body. So when people overbreath, when let's say someone is anxious and they start to hyperventilate, and they get that's too little carbon dioxide in the body, okay, and there's not enough oxygen actually getting into the blood, into the brain, so that's why they get a little bit lightheaded as well. Okay, so let's bring our awareness more to our diaphragm and our ribs. Okay, so if you want to, you can use your hands to feel it. Okay, you can use the band. Okay, or if you feel comfortable, if you need to hold on to something, please continue to do so. Okay, I'm going to use my hands. Okay, so I'm still doing the same things before. Still light breathing in. Okay, just let your air come back out naturally. Okay, as I breathe in, do I feel my belly moving a little bit more? Do I feel it expanding? And do I feel it sinking back in as I breathe out? Okay, and the last part, we can add a cadence to it. Okay, so we're still moving. I'm just going to turn on the timer again, so it's easy to see. You can also just look at your a clock with maybe a second's hand. Okay, once again, we're breathing in for 4. Okay, and then breathing out for 6. Or you can just think of, just make your exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. Okay, so getting ready, breathe in for 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, and we just go back to just a natural breathing, or just give a pause. I was smiling a little bit because I noticed my counting is actually a little bit slower than the clock. Okay, so that probably should have done a little bit faster than that. Okay, so once again, pause, give yourself a pause. Okay. So that's the kind of the very basics of kind of a breathing practice. Okay, so you can do that even when you are going out for a walk. You can kind of, once again, just even sitting down, just direct your attention to your breathing. Okay, make it a little bit lighter. Okay, make it a little bit deeper. Okay, and make it a little bit slower. Okay, so yeah. If you feel comfortable, try to breathe in and out through your nose. You actually don't exhale more. You exhale less kind of moisture from the air if you're breathing out through the nose as well. If you do find, so sometimes if your nose is a little bit a little bit congested, and you find it's hard to breathe in and out through your nose, something you can try is that you can actually naturally decongest your nose a little bit. Okay, probably make sure your hands are clean before you do that. Okay, but we can kind of practice this as well. Okay, so okay, before we do that, we're gonna just check how our breathing is as first. Okay, so feel free to sit down or stand up for this. Okay, so that once again, that urge you breathe is how much carbon dioxide our body can tolerate. So someone who's, let's say, like a diver or something like that, can hold their breath for very like a couple of minutes because the body can tolerate that level. Okay, so we can check what our level of tolerance is by doing kind of like a test, mini test. So what we're going to do is that we are just going to naturally take a breath in, naturally take a breath out, okay, and then we're going to hold our breath. Okay, so at the end of the exhale, you can either block your nose or to squeeze your nose, whatever you prefer. Make sure your hands are clean. And you're going to try to count, see how long that you can hold that breath. Okay, but we're not trying to hold that for as long as we can. Okay, we're trying to hold it until you feel kind of a medium urge to breathe in. So when you start to feel that your stomach start to almost contract, that definitely stop then. Okay. So once again, we're not trying to hold our breath for as long as possible. We're trying to get to the point where we just feel kind of a light to medium urge to breathe in and out. Okay, and that's the level we're trying to get to. Okay, so I'm just going to start the timer again. Okay, any points you're ready, you're just going to take a breath in, like a natural breath in. So you're not trying to take a really big breath in, just a natural breath in, natural breath out. Okay, and then hold the nose. Okay, and then when you need to take a breath in, notice the time. Okay, see how many seconds you get up to. Okay, so you probably notice again, not able to hold kind of that breath. So I'm actually not very good at this. Okay, so what they say is normal is about 25 seconds. Okay, if you cannot hold for 25 seconds like me, something I should probably work on a little bit more. So it doesn't have to do with your aerobic fitness. Okay, it's actually just your tolerance of carbon dioxide in the body. Okay, so you can it's also a little bit of a check to see if you have a lung condition. It's also a good check to see how you're doing that day as well. So when your lungs are flaring up, you probably notice your breath hold is will be a little bit less than before, just because you're more out of breath. So that's probably a good bit if you the action list. Okay, so if you start to notice these things, check what's going on, see if you're getting sick, get it treated early. If you start to notice that a couple, kind of 1 day or 2 days at most, when you feel like you're much out of breath, maybe your breath hold time is much lower than before, good time to check in with your doctor. Maybe if they have prescribed you antibiotics, maybe ask if you have to start taking it now. So we don't want to get sick if you have a lung, especially if you have a lung condition. Okay, so in terms of back to the topic of decongesting the nose. Okay, so what we can do is that we are just going to take a breath, normal breath in, normal breath out. Okay, and we're going to pluck our nose. Okay, and then we're just going to sway on the spot. Okay, or if you prefer, you can even just you can also march, go take a couple of steps. Okay, when you feel that light to medium urge to breathe, okay, take a breath in through the nose. Okay, and just kind of take at least a couple of breaths in first until you feel your breathing is back to normal. Okay, when you breathe in, when you start, you feel like you have to really take a couple of deep breaths or really quick breaths and you're holding it for too long. Okay, so just a couple of breaths until you're back to normal. So once again, you can be marching. Okay, you can also be just kind of swaying a little bit. Okay, so once again, maybe if you feel ready, take a breath in. Okay, now breath out. Block the nose. Sway or walk. Okay, when you feel like you need to have a medium to light to medium urge to breathe in through the nose. Okay, we will just repeat for one more time. Okay, you just notice how kind of the airflow in your nose again. Okay, so for myself, I notice that I feel a little bit less turbulence inside my nose. Okay, but make sure that your breathing, everything is back to kind of normal first before you do the next kind of hold. Okay, once again, if you're ready. And once again, when you breathe in, it's in through the nose. Okay, and only to the point where we get a light to medium urge to breathe. Okay, we're not trying to hold our breath for as long as we can. Okay, once again, kind of notice if there's any change. Some people work this way, some work a little better for some people if they're actually walking around. Okay, we can just do one last one. Okay, we'll do it this same this time, okay, but I'm gonna give myself. Okay, once again, if you feel like you have to really short of breath afterwards, hold it for much less. Okay, don't overdo this. Okay, so just when you feel like your breathing is back to a regular in and out, okay, then just take one more breath in, normal breath out. You plug the nose in some ways. Okay, when you feel that light to medium urge to breathe in, then in through the nose. Okay, and you might notice that your nose kind of decongests kind of a little bit by itself. So they couple of reasons they suspect why this can help. Okay, so one is that our nose has produced what we call nitric oxide, which kind of expands the arteries, expands the airway when we breathe in. So when we plug the nose, the concentration builds up in the nose. And so as you breathe in, that helps you expand the airway. Second thought is that because you're adding a little bit of stress to your body. So when you are kind of plucking your nose, when you're kind of a little bit of a breath hold, the body goes into a little bit of a stress response. Okay, so remember the stress is a fight or flight response, so things dilate, like they want more, the arteries to expand a little bit more, your airway to expand a little bit more, so they can get more air in, get more blood around the muscle so that you can run or fight. Okay, so that's why sometimes, second reason why they believe that this can help to decongest. Okay, so slightly different class today. Okay, so but this is something you can, if you want, you can kind of practice just anytime you are doing anything really. Okay, you can think of that as almost a little bit of a mindfulness practice where you're just directing your breath, your attention to your breathing. And when you're doing this, sometimes don't even judge your breathing either. So just kind of notice what's going on in the body. If you have any thoughts, just kind of let it just almost kind of comes and go. Okay, so a lot of times when we maybe have a little bit of anxiety, we tend to judge a thought or judge something very quickly. Okay, so just let the thought naturally come into your mind. Okay, think of yourself just as a mirror. You're just reflecting back what's going on. Okay, you're not reflecting any judgment. Okay, and when you can, just redirect your attention back to your breathing. Okay, so if you can focus your attention on something away from your thoughts. Okay, so in this case, we're directing our attention to our breathing. Okay, notice the quality of the air that's breathing in, breathing out. Okay, we notice what's going on in the rest of your body. Okay, so direct our attention, our awareness from our mind more to our body. If you're walking outside, you can of course direct it to other things as well. You can notice your environments a little bit more. You might notice some things that you never kind of thought of before because we can be so into our own minds, into our own thoughts that we don't notice the things around us. Okay, so yeah, definitely thank you for coming to everyone. I know it's a little bit different than usual, okay, but just want to get the basics down today. So thank you for coming again, and maybe see everyone next time. No problem. Bye-bye.